Welcome back to a brand new edition of Views from the Booth. I'm your host, Reed Becker, and joining me today, you have Evan Goldenstein and Jake Cohen.
Thanks for having me.
First, thanks for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Now, today, obviously, the NBA regular season just finished up yesterday, and here in the New York area, for the first time since Mike Woodson and Carmelo Anthony, the New York Knicks have finally made the playoffs this year as the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference. And they'll be facing off against the Atlanta Hawks. Most likely hasn't been fully announced, confirmed, but most likely on Saturday. But really for the Knicks this year, boy, what a difference does having a competent head coach and front office make. And when you bring back the majority of the same roster, someone that can actually coach your guys and bring in the right pieces, what a difference that can make.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, Tom Thibodeau, obviously, he's been bouncing around the league after Chicago for quite some time now. And he's always had guys that played his system, but he never had a full roster that was able to do it. And him coming to New York was like a Christmas gift for a little kid. It was just magical to see. He had 9-10 guys deep that were willing to work and play through his philosophy. And you didn't see that from a Thibodeau team since the Chicago days with prime Derrick Rose. And, I mean, obviously he has Derrick Rose back, but when he has a full roster that's capable of listening to him, they can win games.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Tibbs has been probably the coach of the year in my opinion, but I think more importantly, the turnaround of this team has came from Julius Randle and the way he has completely transformed as a player. I mean, the entire team stems off of how he's doing. If he's getting doubled, then everyone else is able to show what they got and play well. So, I mean, I think Julius Randle deserves just as much, maybe more credit and fib for the way that this team has turned around.
We'll talk about Julius Randle coming off from the guy that was the most hated player in New York City last year,
Right.
turning around a complete 180 this year, averaging 23.9 points per game. And really, even if Randle is struggling, he really does ultimately find a way throughout the game to get his own shot and create. So even on his off days, he's still a threat.
The way he's turned into a playmaker, being able to make the right passes out of doubles and get everyone involved, it just made his team's offense so much better than it was last year.
Yeah, especially being able to create off the doubles. Like, teams began to start doubling him in the post, and he was able to find, like, Bullock across the court for an open look, or even see a cutting Barrett from the opposite wing. And those things you didn't see last year when the Knicks obviously were not the team of New York, I would say, and they looked like a lottery bum.
Pickup team in New York City.
Exactly. They looked like a Rucker Park team, but with that addition of Randall's playmaking and even just defensive IQ, those small things that Randall did to improve his game are literally the difference. And I honestly think Randall should be a first team All-NBA, if not second team, no doubt. Just the way he's able to carry a team.
I mean, he's going to lock in for most improved player, automatic.
He should definitely be most improved.
He should get a few MVP votes, and he should get at least second team All-NBA. That's what I think.
At least I just don't know how many forwards I would take over him in the All-NBA. I mean, I'd obviously take Giannis. I don't know if you put LeBron in there just because he didn't play a lot this season. I mean, Randall's playing the most minutes in the league at about 38 minutes a game, and he missed. Did he miss? I don't know the exact number, but he missed few to none games. So there's not many guys that have the durability and the quality of Randall. So I just think he should be at least in contention for a first team All-NBA spot.
I think you have to give at least the most improved from coming off of what his picture was from last year up to this year.
Absolutely.
And then you bring up Barrett, another one who people last year overreacted quickly right off the bat, thinking he was going to be a bust, considering he was Zion's teammate and all the pressure that brought onto it as well. But bringing into this season with Thibodeau, he really showed what the third overall pick could be, averaging 17 points per game, and he's going to be a star, one that the Knicks haven't had in for a while.
I'm going to be honest. Coming into the draft, I was a RJ Barrett hater. I'm not personally the biggest advocate for him. I don't think his game coming into the NBA was a NBA-ready game, the way some of the scouts said. I thought he was very raw, and I think he needed to work a lot. But even seeing that in his second year, the progressions he's made from his days at Duke, especially specifically in his efficiencies, he's a lot more efficient from the field, a lot more efficient from three, and in my opinion, most effective. He's most efficient from the foul line.
Right.
He was shooting about in the near top high 50s, low 60s at his time at Duke, and he's nowhere near that right now in New York, which is just such a thing to see that he's been able to work on that. And I like 17 points. He's been a volume scorer his whole career, even back to his high school days. But I think the efficiencies are the key thing to notice, like how much he's really improved. Because even his rookie season, he was not an efficient player. He's still putting up 14 a game, I believe, in his rookie year. But even doing the efficiencies and putting up consistently 17 a game, I think is really impressive.
And you hear him a couple of days ago in the media saying, which the Knicks also hadn't had in a while, someone that wants to stay in Madison Square Garden for his entire career.
Yeah, you don't hear that very much.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at RJ, like even from the start of this season, he was not shooting well at all. And I think his three-point percentage is brought all the way up to 40%. You can just see that this guy's working on his game, and he's just going to keep getting better. And I think it's really a key to this team. When he plays well and Julius is playing well together, this team on offense is almost unstoppable.
Well,
So
and I think part of it goes to Thibodeau, back to Thibodeau, because what they say is on the road trips, granted it's a pandemic, but they don't go to the hotel. They go right to the gym and work on their jump shots. So,
yeah, they are locked in.
Now, we'll get into now the actual matchup in the first round. So they have Atlanta after they won their last three remaining games of the season and got help from Milwaukee on Saturday.
Yep.
But so now looking ahead to this matchup, just right off the bat, first of all, so the Knicks, obviously, we know their defense, which is another thing, has vastly improved this season with Thibodeau at the helm.
Fourth in the league.
Right. And then looking on the other side with Atlanta, though, ever since Nate McMillan took over for Lloyd Pierce, you have 27-11 record under him, number 8 offense in the league, and that was entering the game on Sunday. But then they also won 19 of the 21 games at home. Granted, for the Knicks, though, they're going to have home court advantage, so that plays into a positive for them. I'm going to say this. First of all, I definitely, right off the bat for the Knicks, it's going to go 7 games, especially how I've seen them playing against Charlotte and Boston, who basically Boston had their G League team out there yesterday. So for me, if they have a chance, it's definitely going 7. And I think they have a good chance at this, especially when you have home court advantage. And I think their defense, Thibodeau's going to have them ready. I think the hardest part for them will be is you have Trae Young, who's always going to be a threat from three-point range, and Gallinari from 46% from three, and Bogdanovich. That's going to be their big, I guess, challenge. I mean, you look at Atlanta's defense; they're towards the bottom, 16th in defensive efficiency. So the Knicks have the advantage there, but Trae Young is definitely going to be a problem.
Yeah, but I personally think it's going to be New York in 6. I see Atlanta. In both games they played versus New York won the season series. Randall was averaging 40.7 points a game and averaging a triple-double against Atlanta. So my thing is, as good as Atlanta's been offensively with Nate McMillan taking the helm, I think defense wins championships. It's been the saying for as long as I can remember, as long as I think anyone can remember. Defense is the way to win championships. And I think the Knicks are also a deeper team. I mean, you look, the Knicks got us, I would say, one of the top benches in the league. And in Atlanta, I don't see many guys outside of their 5-man rotation that are really capable of playing big minutes in the playoffs. And you've looked at teams in the past, and the best teams that win it all are teams that actually do go pretty far deep. Like you look at LA last year, LA had huge minutes from THT or Caruso off the bench last year. Even KCP played off the bench a little bit. Rondo. I mean, they were so deep last year, and they cruised through.
You're not comparing them to the Lakers.
I'm not comparing them. Like I'm just comparing the depth. The teams that win are teams that are deep, and I think the Knicks are deeper, and they have the best player in the series, in my opinion. I just don't think Atlanta has a guy to defend Julius Randle effectively enough for 7 games, and I don't think they're deep enough to run through 7.
The only thing I'll say about that, and then I'll let Evan come in here, is that once the playoffs start, it's a different animal. And Thibodeau even said that. Once the season ends, you scrap it, and the game slows down.
It is. It is.
all over the
Absolutely.
place.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. But which Hawks player has playoff experience?
Not
Well,
many.
Not Trae Young, not
Yeah.
Bogdanovich, not Collins, not Capella, not Blake Goodwin, not Herter, not Radish, not Hunter, not
Lou
Gallinari.
Williams.
That
Lou Williams.
Okay, so Lou Williams. So out of the 10 guys we just named, one guy has
Right.
playoff experience.
Yeah.
Not even the coach. Nate McMillan has no experience either.
Mhm.
I mean, if you're just gonna play devil's advocate for the Knicks, though, I mean,
Yeah. They don't
I
have as
mean,
much experience either.
the only one that, for a player standpoint, that I can remember has playoff experience would be Derrick Rose. No.
And Taj Gibson. Those are the two. And Nerlens Noel. Those are the three players that have any playoff experience. But I mean,
Alec Burks has experience in Utah.
yeah, he has some. But I mean, Julius Randle.
Tom Thibodeau alone has playoff experience.
But is he making the shots?
No, he's not.
He's creating the open shots though, because we've been talking about Tom Thibodeau's impact for most of this podcast we've discussed so far. So if we're going to talk about his impact in the regular season, his impact should translate to the playoffs. No,
Sure.
if anything, it should be more beneficial because his game plan should be perfectly scouted and perfectly executed.
It should. I think they're gonna. I think they'll win the series. I just think it'll go a little longer, just of how they're not able to really hold a lead from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, this is two young teams trying to find their way in the playoffs, like first time experience for most of the players. But I mean, Julius Randle hasn't been in the playoffs, but if you look at what he's done against Atlanta this year, 3 games, they won all 3, 37.3 points a game, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, that's unstoppable numbers. I just don't know if they have a guy that can guard him for a 7-game series. And just the way he's played this year and against them specifically, I think he's going to have a really good series. And I think if RJ can play well in the playoffs this year, we have a good shot of winning. I think I agree 6 or 7 games. But I don't see it being less than that just because of the experience and how young of a team we are.
I agree. And then I guess I'm going to assume we'll just quickly look ahead after if for somehow they get past it. I don't see them getting out of the second round though.
Because I believe they would have to play the 1 seed in the second
Philly.
round.
That would be Philly. Yep.
Or wins that.
Personally, I think it's a not bad matchup. I'd rather play Philly than Brooklyn. I think we all agree we'd rather play Philly than Brooklyn.
Although the Knicks almost beat Brooklyn in the regular season.
They did. Absolutely. I just think if you throw Kyrie, Harden, and
If
KD
Kyrie even
on the
shows up,
Knicks,
now he's saying basketball's not important come playoff time. But
Yeah, I mean,
I personally think the Knicks could push Philly to 6 games. I think they could get 2 off them at home. But after that, I don't know if they can actually completely win a series.
I don't trust if the Knicks are going to have to go this young of a team up against Joel Embiid. I mean, the Knicks always have trouble stopping big mans like that, and they don't really have someone to go up against him.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to tell them to go on the road. On top of that, I don't think that's going to be a good matchup.
And the Sixers are one of the best home
Right.
court teams in the NBA. I mean, past 2 seasons they've lost, I think, single digits at home combined. I think they lost 2 games last year. I think they're at 7 or 8 this year.
mhm.
I mean that's just pure domination in your own place. So I don't see the Knicks being able to win there.
I mean, yeah, I don't see them winning a series in the third round, but like the way this team competes and plays defense every night, they're not going to make it easy. And I'm telling you, no one wants to see this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, they've been competing for 72 games. So I mean, they wouldn't stop trying to fight as hard as they could now.
And they're not going to make it easy. So I mean, no one wants to see them because of just how hard they'll play and how much it'll take out of you to try to beat them in a 7-game series. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
I totally agree. I think we're all on the same page there. So that's all the time we have, though, for today. For Jake Cohen and Evan Goldenstein, I'm your host, Reed Becker, and we'll see you next time on a brand new edition of Views from the Booth.